The mole, if he was caught here it will be over. Alejandro was checking for any radio that can monitor them speaking. Alejandro represented the president of the Korean Friendship Association. The mole was the spy. Alejandro was briefed on a secret factory in Uganda. In Uganda, Mr. James would be the playmaker, the fake investor with no money but a good actor in the roles, because he is a businessman in real life. North Koreans arrived in Kampala. Stoneface and Danny, the international arms dealer from North Korea. Earlier that month, North threatened to fire missiles towards the US territory of Guam. This provoked the US president into threats of war. Danny said he has no concerns of Trump. James's idea was to buy an island and build a weapons factory underground. How did James find island in the first place? He used Google to find it. Danny liked the idea because they construct a factory, then provide some equipment. For example, with the missiles they will need to bring their own aircraft to North Korea under the name of humanitarian aid. The ammunition to big missiles will be provided. Mr. James and the mole wanted to see if it could actually happen. Real estate man on it, Jude said there. People are there to build a hospital, so no one knew about the weapon. He wanted them to be moved without causing friction. Danny's idea was to build a hotel above the same kind of resort to show the landing spot. James realized they had worked with this kind of person before. They also said it from the beginning. James is the investor but the architects behind the whole structure, where they remember James never had any money for this. Thousands of people are willing to be thrown off the island if James put down $5 million. The mole and James were feeling sorry for the people on the island. James and the mole had a sit-down with an establishment by the broker, with government officials. They said, we want to do something on the island, but they want 100% privacy or we don't buy the island. They had customs that would protect the island. Danny wanted to take the venture a step further. North Korea and Syria have been friends for many years, and the North Koreans were even building a nuclear reactor in the Syrian desert until the Israelis decided to blow it up. During the civil war in Syria, the New York Times published a story about how North Korea was helping the Syrian regime with its chemical weapons program. Small arms from North Korea have been found in the hands of Islamic State, but most likely stolen weapons from the Syrian army. Danny wants to send bombs and projectiles to Syria. The end user is probably Syrian regime. Danny said James needed to go to Beijing. Danny passed James his collaboration partner. He will take it forward. Introduce himself as the main guy for the weapon industry. Korean men did not know if they could trust James. James answered, we have a collaboration with Syria and but the problem is to give them the armory. Now do you think you can help us? To the gentleman, they have connections in Syria. James wanted a list of people cannot contact, then he would contact them, and because he can travel there on their behalf. James now told them he visited Korea in January, then asked who invited him and he said Kang. On the second day meeting, then Stoneface appears. The strange things to James, the hierarchy is very difficult. Stoneface did not say a word, as he was just there to verify James. It's safe to say his appearance made a difference. They were waiting for the right person who will handle the transportation of weapons. He asked James if he can confirm that he will buy the island within 2 to 3 months. James answered he will fly down there personally and stay down there until it's brought. Only reason he went to Uganda in the first place was because you asked us to. It took them 1 year to contact James. In 2017, the mole, going back to Spain, briefed Alejandro about the tourism project, the code name Weapons and Drug Factor in Uganda. The mole went to North Korea as Alejandro tour guide back in 2006 left a long-lasting impression on him. During the meeting in Spain, he tells the mole of an ambitious plan for a triangle deal involving James, North Korea and Hisham al-Dasuki from Jordan. He wants to provide fuel to North Korea. Alejandro's idea was we send fuel to North Korea and James get the payment in arms parts and pharmaceuticals to the island in Uganda. 2018 Spain for triangle trading. Alejandro, when we were looking for oil due to sanctions, he received the order from Pyongyang, from his government, to look for different sources than what Dasuki wanted. Kang said we are also doing the business with James. Instead of paying the company, James should buy the oil, not the DPRK, although we are the one receiving it. From that amount, it can be deducted from the contract and the operations to the tourist business. James will receive the weapons, then he will give him money, and then he gives oil. Alejandro does not have a problem selling oil to North Korea. Alejandro the matchmaker, the middleman. James wanted to meet the oil man Dasuki face to face. He made some connections with some friends in the government, says Dasuki. James says you pay off the government, so we are safe. He is a middleman who takes all the blame, to not to get on the blacklist. They met up with James and the mole. Showed them his Russia visa document. Russian to Jordan, then to Dubai. Dasuki has a contract of 10 million you can take anywhere with the oil, for $3.2 The mole and James' strategy is to speak to Dasuki to make sure the government does not interfere. Next, the mole was asked to go Sweden to pick up a package. What he was picking up was drawings of a North Korean weapon/pharmaceutical factory in Uganda, due a North Korean envoy who came to Copenhagen to do business with James. He has a close friendship with Kang. Ju will be the communicator of the tourism project in Uganda. From the office in Dasuki was now threatening legal action unless James humored their contract. James and Danny met in a hotel in Cambodia. Danny gave James a new order list in Cambodia. They wanted to speed up the process after James went off-grid. Meanwhile, the mole was taking care of business as the KFA delegate of Scandinavia. He protested against the BBC. Then the mole went to Spain for his last meeting with Alejandro to discuss the disappearance of James. Shortly after, the mole went off the grid. Like, share, comment and subscribe.